day, everyone. I am Winnie Morales, and we are the group 3. Our topic is about memos as a teacher. So, my group mates are Leah Joyce Halili, Sarelu Parducho, Esterosa Radam, and Philly May Sardenia. So, to begin with, I will define what is memorandum. So, memorandum, it is a term taken from Latin memorandum, meaning it must be remembered. So likewise, it is a note document for other communication that helps the memory by recording events and also observing or observations held on a topic such as or maybe used in a business office. So next is memorandum is the policy briefing note document that helps prospective form organization in making decisions. So meaning to say it is a short message or um, record used for internal communication in a business. So all in all, memos can be used to quickly communicate with a wide audience something brief but important, such as procedural changes, price increases, policy additions, meeting schedules, and reminders for terms or summaries of agreement terms. So next topic will be discussed by Sherlu Parducci.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. I am Cheryl Perducho, and I will be discussing about endorsements. Endorsements are often written to endorse a person or a program. So basically, an endorsement in the context of a teacher is a letter for someone, a colleague or a coworker, and it is the process of writing down details such as accomplishments and qualifications of that certain person for a purpose of recognizing their achievements or how qualified they are for any positions. So in the letter, it must clearly state that you express your full support and consent over someone. So how do we request an endorsement letter? Next slide, please. So in requesting an endorsement, we have to consider various things. So the first one is choose a professional format. A letter of endorsement for a teacher must use a professional format and tone. And there are a few pieces of information you must include, such as name and address, the date, the recipient's name and address as well, and then a professional greeting, introductory paragraph, 2 to 3 body paragraphs, closing paragraph, and sign off and signature. And then the second one, you must state why you intend to endorse the person. When writing an endorsement letter, start out by saying who you are endorsing, followed by what you are endorsing them, and then state how long you have known them and in what capacity and anything else relevant about your relationship. And if you have known the applicant for a long time, it's important to highlight this fact because it will provide more credibility to the thoughts on how that person has grown and developed. And then the third one, you must highlight notable skills, traits, and accomplishments. You may include you may include several relevant skills and qualities that apply to the job in your endorsement letter for the teacher. And these might include details like the teacher's compassion, organization, or creativity. As we all know, character is extremely important in teaching positions or profession. So calling attention to their soft skills as well as their hard skills can be helpful. And then the fourth one is give specific examples. You may provide clear and detailed examples of relevant hard skills, soft skills, and accomplishments of the teacher. You may explain how these enhance the candidate's performance in the classroom. For example, when writing a letter of reference for an English teacher, you may want to mention the individual's excellent English pronunciation, vocabulary and grammar skills, or maybe their confidence and skills to give motivating and interesting lessons to the students. And then, or maybe if you are writing an endorsement for a science teacher, you may explain how they have consistently organized new or compelling experiments for the class to help them learn complex concepts. And then the last one, you must provide contact information. Conclude your letter of endorsement with your contact information for the recipient if ever they have any questions or concerns. So you must provide both your email address and phone number. Then next slide, please. So we have here an example of an endorsement letter, and this letter is endorsing a former student who becomes a research associate. So this endorsement letter includes address, name, institute, university, as well as the reason for endorsing the teacher, such as her skills, traits, and accomplishments. It also includes detailed examples regarding their experiences or interaction. And then the last part of the letter includes name, signature, and contact information. So next presenter, please.
All right, so again, I am Leah Joyce Halili, and let us discuss the five parts of memo, which is the heading, message or body, reference initials, notations, and signature. Next slide, please. So the first part is the heading. So it has five key components. Two, which is the name of the person or persons to whom the memo is being sent. From, the name of the sender. CC or carbon copy, the name of person or persons receiving copy if appropriate. And then fourth is the date. It should be complete and the current date. And then lastly, the subject. Short information of the memo or the subject of the memo. So this should be brief but clear. So here is an example. Next slide. And then the second part is the message or the body. So it should contain these key components of a business letter. So we have an opening that clarifies why the memo is being sent, details that are needed for understanding or support of what is being presented or asked, and a closing that makes clear what action is requested. So next slide, please. Here is the example. So as you can see, it should describe, explains, and discusses the central idea of the memo and includes all the details that support the sender's ideas. So the body may contain a brief statement of the key recommendations the sender has reached. And then next slide. Okay, so the third part is the reference initials. So type initials at the bottom of the page should be used to indicate who typed the memo if that person is different from the person writing it. So as you can see, it is under the body or the message itself. Next slide. Okay, so notations. So if there is an attachment like lists, diagrams, pictographs, tables, and other sources of data, it should be noted at the bottom of the page in the notation part. So as you can see, it is under the reference initials. And then next slide. So the signature. So the person sending the memo should write his or her initials over or next to his name in the from part of the heading to document that it really came from him or her. Or alternatively, the person may sign the memo at the bottom beneath the message, just like in this example. All right, so we are done with the parts of memo. Now let's proceed to the next presenter, Miss Esterosa Radam.
So thank you for that, Miss Halili. So now, after we discuss the parts of the memo, we will proceed to the formats of memo. So we all know that the purpose of memo is typically to inform, but having a good and correct format is one way of catching the attention of the reader to understand what he or she is looking at and decide quickly whether he or she should read it. So there are two types of memos format. So the first type is the block format. So every component of this type or of this memo format is like the heading, address, salutation, body, signature, and enclosures are aligned to the left. Also, the first sentences of paragraphs are not indented. So next slide, please. Just like the an example here, you will see that there are two spaces between the address and the date, three spaces between the address and the salutation rather, and two spaces between the salutation and the first body paragraph. And also, um, in the between the first, second, and third paragraph, there's always spaces. And in between the body, the complementary clause, the signature line, and enclosure are always there are always spaces. So the next types of format is modified block format. So the heading, the complementary clause, the signature, and the notation are aligned to the right. And also the address, salutation, the body, and enclosures are aligned to the left. And the first sentences of paragraphs are also indented. So next slide, please. I have here an example that you will see that there are two spaces between the address and the date, three spaces between the address and the salutation, and two spaces between the salutation and the first body paragraph. And also there are spaces between the body, the complementary clause, the signature line, and identification. You can see the difference between the block and the modified block format. So in making also a memo, make sure to remember this guide question. Next slide, please, to avoid the errors. So next slide. So just like this question, did you place a colon after the salutation? Did you place a comma after the complementary clause? Did you sign the letter below the complementary clause and above your type name? Did you initial or sign the memo to the right of your name? So always remember also the spelling, punctuation, the dates, and the pronouns, reference, and form, because the most important rule when composing a memo is that less is more, because it is important to understand the correct memo format to convey your message professionally. So that's all for my part, and now we will proceed to discuss the memo tone by Miss Sardenia.
Thank you so much, Miss Radam. Good day, everyone. My name is Queenie May Sardanya, and we are down to the last part, and I'll be discussing the tone of the memo. I would like to start by asking, what is tone? So tone in writing, it refers to the writer's attitude toward the reader and the subject of the message. So the overall tone of a written message affects the reader just as one's tone of voice affects the listener in everyday exchanges. So the way you write and the word choices you make in your writing confer feelings and emotions on the reader. These choices are known as the tone of a written piece, which is similar to the tone of voice used when communicating orally. Understanding tone and its applications in various writing methods can help you determine how you want to communicate with others. The tone used in writing refers to the feelings it evokes in the reader. So a written piece might have the positive or uplifting tone, or the tone might feel sad or tense. So when you write, your mood at that time might have an impact on the overall tone of your piece. So you might also use your feelings about the story or situation you are presenting in the written communication to reflect the tone. So additional factors that impact the tone of a piece include the verbs and adjectives you use and how you utilize imagery to tell the story. So tone also refers to the complexity of the writing along with the formality of the words used. So a more formal piece might reflect a more serious topic, while a light-hearted story might use less formal words and diction. So in literature, tone refers to how the author expresses their attitude throughout their writing. Tone might stay the same throughout the piece, or it might change to reflect a shift in the story or mood. So how can I make sure my messages have the appropriate tone? So the writer should consider several things when preparing to write. So the following questions will help you to determine the appropriate tone for your message. First is, why am I writing this document? Second, who am I writing to and what do I want them to understand? Lastly, what kind of tone should I use? So the tone of the language used in memos is generally informal tone. So what is a formal tone? That is the question. So a formal tone is common in a professional or academic context when the piece needs to be direct and thorough while maintaining a respectful feel. So formal pieces often include full words with no contractions or other shortened words and does not include slang terms. So this one, the formal tone, it is grammatically correct and emphasizes facts rather than opinion. So here are the few ingredients that make the tone more comfortable to identify and understand. First is formal style is complex. So formal writing uses longer sentences that allow you to introduce, elaborate, and conclude profound ideas. So the complex construction creates a feeling of seriousness. So second is formal style is objective. So a formal tone does not leave any room for opinions or emotions. For instance, you will not encounter ellipses or function marks that emphasize points. So views only apply when the writer cites a third-party source. So the third one is formal style uses full words. So take note that in formal writing style, it does not use contractions that are used to represent words or titles. So in case abbreviations appear, the full word must have been introduced previously. So the tone even discourages short form words like it's for it is. Next is formal writing is big on third person. So formal writing is not personal. Take note of that. So the writer is disconnected from the content. So consequently, he does not use I, we, and us among such other words that denote a personal attachment. So formal writing engages your audience through precision and focusing primarily on content. It is meant to convey a message with no dual interpretation. So therefore, this type of tone seeks to use the least number of words possible to convey the desired message. So we would like to end this video by stating the function of memo, which has two. So first is the memo, they draw attention to problems. And second, they help to solve them. So they achieve their objectives by informing the reader about new information, such as policy changes, or by persuading the reader to take action, such as attending a meeting or changing a current production procedure. So that's the end of our report. Thank you so much.